Lana should be here with me anytime now. I started the show a little bit before her, but more economic news about Joe Biden. And again, we talked about this last week. Even our show talks a lot about Donald Trump. And why? Because it's just, first of all, it literally fascinating, and fascinating not in a good way. It's in a bad way. It's fascinating that, first of all, that this guy even ran for president to start. Number two, won the Republican primaries in 2016 when everybody was laughing at him and saying there's no fucking way this guy has a chance. He blows through the primaries and faces probably the strongest, well, I'd say the most qualified candidate in the history of our country. She was a senator. She was a first lady. She was Secretary of State. She did all of this stuff. She was the most qualified person to ever run, and she was considered a machine, that there was no way anybody was going to stop her from winning. And Donald Trump beats her. And we could go over the million reasons why we believe that happened. Some Hillary's fault, some certainly not Hillary's fault, some with a lot of help from outside sources, but again, that's not the point of me bringing this up. It's just the fascination that not that he just won. And then we watched 4 years of this clown just basically has everybody who is not a brain dead moron shaking their head going, how did this happen? This is a terrible, terrible movie. And then we go on to a point where we say enough is enough. We beat this guy, got him the hell out of office. He destroyed the one big task that he had. Think it's all over, right? Nope. He starts an insurrection against his own country, has his own people attack the city of Washington, the capital of our country, has them attack it to stop the certification of a vote that he clearly lost, but he got a bunch of morons to think that the election was stolen. And that they, to this day, still feel that it was legitimately stolen. And then we go on, and then now we got indictments. We have, he was found liable for rape. All these things add up, and it's just like, this fucking guy won't go away. So it's like, you can't get him out of your life, and you want to. So we talk about him because, just like I said last week, like everybody else talks about him that doesn't like him. And again, I don't understand why people need to be reminded, but I do hear this enough where people say, we need to be reminded how terrible Donald Trump was. And I'm like, what? We could just think about what he did yesterday. Why do we need to be reminded 4 years ago, 5 years ago? But again, that's what people are saying, and just to keep drilling it in people's head how terrible Donald Trump is. And quite frankly, if you came up to me and said, oh, the only way you want Donald Trump to win is to make people think how terrible he is, so people vote for, I don't give a fuck how you vote for Joe Biden. Doesn't matter to me whether you love him. I mean, hell, we went over a ton of things already why Joe Biden should be president. Fuck that he's old. Who cares that he's old? It makes no bit of difference. The stats, everything does not lie. It is a fact, everything Joe Biden did. Do you love everything he does? No. Are you going to love everything every president does? No. I didn't love everything Obama did. I didn't love everything Clinton did. But I did love them as leaders. And this guy right here, Joe Biden, has accomplished more in less than 4 years than every single president I just named. That's not a knock on anybody. That is not trying to that is just statistical fact. And if anybody can show me that is just not true, everything that I'm reading, here's something else. 16 Nobel Peace Prize winning, or Nobel Prize winning, not Peace Prize, Nobel Prize winning economists are jumping into the presidential campaign with a stark warning. Former President Trump's plan would reignite inflation and cause lasting harm to the global economy if he wins in November. The Nobel lecturers are lending their academic prestige to a political argument the Biden administration has been making for weeks. Inflation would be worse under Donald Trump. First of all, like, who doesn't think anything wouldn't be worse under Donald Trump? If anybody just took the time to study his entire life, I mean, from the beginning, when he was a little bratty kid and they had to send him to military school, when he was getting older and his daddy had to give him a loan to start his first business, which fine. You know what? There are plenty of people out there. Dads made it. You're going to start your son off. You're going to give him $1 million and a hotel to start off your career. But from that point on, he went on to literally destroy everything he put his hands on, including 3 casinos, which I'm a casino guy. Love Las Vegas, my favorite place in the world. If you've been to Las Vegas, forget about Las Vegas. If you've ever been to a casino, you could look around, and most of them, you look around, God damn, this is pretty damn nice. Well, there's a reason why those casinos are really top-notch nice, because they don't lose money at all. The light bill in those casinos, they make that in the first 3 seconds of it's impossible to bankrupt casinos. But I encourage anybody to go back and read exactly Donald Trump's way in which he built these casinos. He actually didn't build them. One was in the process of building. He was in a battle with Merv Griffin, of all people. He won one battle so he could take over the completion of the Taj Mahal. And he somehow convinced these banks that he had money. He had no fucking money. He didn't have it. But he wound up winning this because he was good enough to convince these banks that he had this money to finish off the Taj Mahal, and he didn't have it. So what did he have to do? He had to take out junk bonds, which the interest rate on these junk bonds were so fucking high that a reporter started writing an article, and they said, this doesn't make a lot of sense. And wrote the article, said the amount of the interest that he borrowed on this casino, sure, he'll do good for the first 3 or 4 months when it opens, because of course when everything opens, everybody floods in and you make a lot more money. Then the excitement dies down. You don't make as much money anymore. And then it just becomes a seasonal thing. You make a little bit more money during the week. You're not making any money during the day. At the weekends, that's when you start making money. So long story short, the guy wrote an article. Donald Trump got really pissed off, called the magazine, had the guy fired. And it turns out the guy was right. So he wound up suing Donald Trump to an undisclosed amount. And the guy's living a nice life right now because he sued Donald Trump for basically getting him fired over an article that was completely 100% true. But anyway, back to what I was saying is that these economists, these are Nobel Prize winning economists. So I'm not really sure we're not going to trust these guys, but we're going to trust Cat Turd on fucking Twitter. I need people to start making sense of this kind of stuff for me. One last thing I wanted to play. This guy, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, was on Andrew Ross Sorkin's show. He was the Lester Crown Professor in the Practice of Management at Yale. Now, I have no idea what that means, but that sounds pretty fucking important. And he had some things to say that's pretty interesting that really doesn't happen often with Republican presidents.
Data, and we're looking at this now for the last 4 months. We've been pointing out that there are no Fortune 500 CEOs who are supporting former President Trump, and that is a historic break going back to William Howard Taft and through Calvin Coolidge and Ronald Reagan and the Bushes and everything. Is that it's been anywhere from 40 to 60% public and financial support. It's zero now. And it was zero in 2016. And the Trump economic package frightens them. It's extremely inflationary. The tariffs, 10% across the board on all imports, that's just crazy. It leads to a 3% increase for sure in inflation and plunging in the GDP. And then and that's before retaliatory gestures, the increase in the deficit. He wants to cut $5 trillion of taxes with no commensurate cut in expenditures. So these are problems. He doesn't believe in the
Jeffrey,
independence
but what
of
do
the
you say?
Fed.
What do you say to the CEOs? There's a lot of CEOs who are watching us now, probably watching you speaking, saying, but you know what? I don't like the Biden administration when it comes to the regulatory regime right now. I worry about the tax policy and what's going to happen if the Trump taxes roll off in 2025 and what that debate looks like. I mean, there are folks, as you said, 70% of the CEO community, Republicans. Do they turn out to be reluctant Biden voters? Do they not vote at all? I mean, where do you think they land?
They'll be reluctant Biden voters. They don't want the fabric of society pulled apart.
Well, and that really goes counter to what I was saying earlier. I should watch my own fucking clip. But I mean, and that's actually good news. So if there are corporate leaders who are out there saying, this might be a bridge too far for us. This one might destroy the economy enough to where even the tax cuts will not hurt us. So, it is fun. I did see that clip earlier. Should have realized that when I was saying that earlier, but whatever. What can you do? It's a live show, and we're here having fun. And I'm still waiting for Lana. I can't believe I've gone this long flying solo for the first time live with you guys.